Covering the community, events, and people of Georgia, Carolina. This is the Means Report. Here is Brad Means.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Means Report. We appreciate you spending part of your Sunday with us. Hope everything is going well in your world. Our first segment today will deal with a very heavy topic, a topic that involves things not going well in the worlds of a couple of families in the CSRA. It's been a rough few days when it comes to traffic accidents and young people in our community. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about teenagers dying in car accidents and young people getting behind the wheel. And we're going to talk to Aiken County's coroner in just a moment about what he sees day to day in his job and what he thinks might be done to help make our roads safer, not only for the young people who have to get behind the wheel, but for the rest of us who are out there sharing the road with them. We'll have some good advice from Tim Carlton in just a second. Also coming up on this edition of the Means Report, we'll hear from Jeff Fairman, our in-house financial advisor. He is ready to make sure that your 2012 is going well from a financial standpoint. And the Salvation Army is going to be here. No, it's not red kettle time, which is usually when we welcome the Salvation Army to the set of the Means Report. We just want to get an update on what the Salvation Army is doing. There's going to be some changes at the top there in the Augusta area. We'll tell you about that. And as always, we'll let you know how you can help them. Plus, our answers to last week's question of the week and a good question of the week this week involving what might be a ghost flying out of a lightning bolt. Aiken's Bureau Chief Kate Rayner shot that this past week, and we'll show you her video and you can look at it and tell us what in the world is flying out of this bolt of lightning. It could be something paranormal, it could just be a bug. We'll let you take a look at it in just a few minutes. But first, we do want to talk about that serious subject I mentioned, beginning with the death of Burke County's football star, Denzel Worthen. One of the stars of the state champion Bears team got behind the wheel of a car just a few short days ago, was killed in a crash. Just a heart-wrenching loss for the entire Burke County community. Denzel just about to really start living life. You saw the championship rings just a second ago that he and his teammate loved to sport, and our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers and our love certainly go to the people of Burke County, the greater Waynesboro community. Same sympathies being extended today to Columbia County, Georgia, where that young man, Johnny Hartman, was killed in a car accident just this past week. So you have Jonathan, you have Denzel, taken from this world within days of each other, all because what? They were just driving. They were driving in their automobiles, and now they are no longer with us. A sad, sad story indeed, tough to deal with on this Mother's Day for sure. Tim Carlton is the coroner of Aiken County, South Carolina. And Tim, I want to first of all say welcome to you. I know you're busy, and I thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, Brad.
I know that you work all kinds of cases, and for those of you who don't know, we in the media depend heavily on Tim Carlton and other officials to give us information as it happens so that we can share it with you. And Tim is awesome about that, especially in the heat of the moment when he could be doing a lot more important things. He does take the time to take our cell phone calls and talk to us. And a lot of those cell phone calls deal with motor vehicle accidents. Yeah. I guess my first question to you is, I don't want to put you on the spot, but as a rule, would you say that a lot of these or a good number of these motor vehicle accidents that you work, the injuries or the deaths may have been avoidable, or are these all just things that were going to happen anyway? What do you take us to the scenes and tell us what you see out there?
Well, one of the things that we can almost always predict when we go to a scene, Brad, is that they're typically going to be single vehicle crashes with a rollover ejection. Typically the driver has lost control of that vehicle. And when that happens and a person's not wearing their seatbelt, or a young person's not wearing their seatbelt, they're going to be ejected from that vehicle, and they're going to suffer some really traumatic type injuries.
That's the thing that I think a lot of young people might not take into consideration, is especially if it's a short distance. You know, I can get away with not wearing my seatbelt because it's just a short trip.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be a long journey. You don't have to be on a major highway for these kind of things to happen, right?
That's true. I mean, statistics speak to the idea that most crashes, and in some instances, a lot of fatal crashes happen within 5 miles of your home.
Close to your home.
Yes.
Tell the young people again, I don't want to skip this point. What happens to a human being if they're not strapped in and their car either comes into contact with a tree or another vehicle, and you don't have that simple piece of cloth strapped across your chest, what happens to the human body after that impact occurs?
Well, obviously, after your first line of defense is your seatbelt in a vehicle. When you strike an object, if you don't have that seatbelt, you're going to impact the steering wheel. You may be thrown through the windshield. You may be thrown out of the vehicle. We had a case where a person was ejected 168 feet.
Oh my goodness.
And the outcome of that is normally going to be fatal.
I know that you approach your job in a very business-like manner, but you also see and deal with a lot of emotion out there. How about the other part of your job where you have to, and I want the young people to hear this, have to go deal with the families? What is that part of your job like, and what happens there?
Well, probably the worst part of our job is having to go visit a family's home and knocking on that door, and typically we're standing there with one of the South Carolina highway patrolmen, and when families come to the door at 2 o'clock in the morning and the coroner's there and the highway patrolman's there, they know it's not going to be good news. And it's heart-wrenching to have to inform a parent or a grandparent or a brother or sister that someone they love has been killed in a car crash.
What can be done? Do you like driver's education courses? Do you like what you're seeing in local schools or outside of schools? What can we do to help better educate our young people to be careful out there? Not saying that either one of these wrecks were the young person's fault, but how you describe the losing control of a vehicle and many times the vehicle overturning, these are things that happened to these young people. What else can be done from an educational standpoint for our young drivers?
Well, I think one of the real challenges is trying to get young people to understand that you have to stay focused when you're in the vehicle. We see a lot of distractions inside of a vehicle, including cell phones and radios and iPods and iPads and laptop computers, things like that, that take you away from the business of driving. And your life can be changed dramatically, not only through death, but also through serious injury in just a brief second of not paying attention.
Tim, what about for the rest of us out there who are sharing the road with these young people? Because if you've seen a young person and you have a teenage son, boys I don't think are as bad about this, maybe they are, the non-stop texting, the non-stop staring at a cell phone instead of whatever else is going on in their world. So let's say they're gonna keep doing that. Right. What can we do?
Well, I think our best bet in trying to prevent those sort of distracted driving habits, specifically texting on the road, is to, when you see someone doing that, contact your local sheriff's office or police agency and let them know that you're behind someone that's weaving all over the road, that's not maintaining speed while they're driving, and let the authorities deal with that.
Okay, so you can do that. I know that we've been encouraged to report what we suspect might be drunk driving if we see the erratic behavior, but you can do that if you see a young person being distracted?
Sure, absolutely. I think that's a great idea for the motoring public to become aware that there's someone that's driving distracted. And you can tell it. Sometimes you can't tell the difference between someone texting and someone that's driving under the influence because of the driving behavior so erratic.
Do you also see sleepiness as a factor anymore, maybe with a young person trying to balance work and school?
Well, we've had several fatalities in Aiken County that we know were related to loss of sleep, and that's from folks that we've been able to, through our investigation, track down that they were up late at night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, doing whatever young people do at 2 or 3 in the morning, and falling asleep at the wheel.
What about when a young person, just a couple more questions, a young person is about to get that driver's license? We talked about you getting ready to face the 16th birthday.
That's right.
When can we as parents release our children out into the world in a car or truck with confidence? Is 16 a good idea? Just, you know, give them the keys at 16, be done with it? Should we shadow them for a little while? Talk about your feelings on that.
Well, you know, I can speak to my own experience with my son and others that we've talked to over the years. You know, one of the scariest things is to see parents hand their kids the keys to a BMW or a Ford Mustang or some of the other vehicles and say, you know, you're 16 and now you've earned the right to be there. You know, I'm a real proponent of families, if they can, getting their children involved in defensive driving, in driving at school. And certainly moms and dads ought to go out with their kids and teach them the correct way to operate a vehicle.
And it's not a bad idea, you touched on this, maybe to get a bigger car or truck instead of this hot rod.
Absolutely.
Especially right at 16.
Absolutely. I know from my own experience with my boys that you know, young men are attracted to fast, tough-looking cars, and I don't know if that's always a great idea.
I love that advice because my 10-year-old spotted a Dodge Charger this past weekend and just couldn't take his eyes off of it, and he's 10.
Yeah.
And you know what, just hearing what you've said makes me want to sort of try to nip that in the bud or say, you can like it, but that's not what you're getting when you're 16.
Yeah.
You carry on a tradition that Sue Townsend did, your predecessor, and that is the painting of the crosses. I just wanted to take a second to thank you for that, because we do see the crosses out there at the scene of accidents, and I think it's very kind of you to do that.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning that. We hope that's a reminder to the motoring public that driving is a huge responsibility, and each person that's old enough to drive should take that responsibility with a lot of seriousness and a lot of care.
Tim, thank you for all you do for this community, and thank you for taking the time to be here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brad.
Tim Carlton, the Aiken County Coroner. I hope he has to paint fewer and fewer of those crosses each and every year, but you pay attention to what he said today, please. Young people and families, important information for sure. When we come back, the Salvation Army, checking in with them to see how they're doing and how we can help them help the 2 state in just a moment.